Hi, everyone. I'm Dr. Roland Roberts, and I'm doing something I haven't done since January, and that is going live at home with a midweek segment. When I was CEO of a nutraceutical company, they were the largest harvesters of blue-green algae in the world. They told me, and if you're a media personality at all, they don't want you going live or doing extra appearances or things because they want the traffic to be drawn to the TV or to the station, or what have you. So you live, like in my case right now, from Saturday to Saturday is my content. But tonight's topic, I've had on my show notes since I think I had to pull up June, or the first week in June. And each week I have had to, hi Melody, and each week I've had to skip it. We've run out of time and just haven't been able to get to it. But it's critical. It's critical. And so I'm not going to be able to get to it the next 2 weeks either. I've got a great guest this Saturday. His name is Eric, and he co-authored a book, Dogs Don't Bark Parked Cars, with Jeff Pearsall. He's going to be actually in the studio with me. And then I've got the following week, I'm actually going to have my dad on, and he has some phenomenal content he's going to be sharing with everybody. So I'm really excited about the next 2 weeks. But then I'm like, this is 2 months later before I may be able to get to some content that the Lord laid on my heart a month ago. And so I just want to share it all. Hi, Courtney. It's great to see you, man. I'm excited for your show on Saturday. I saw the promos today. And so if I hope everybody certainly tunes into Authentic Living. You can like it on Facebook as well, and follow her. Unbelievable, godly woman and a strong family and amazing husband, Jeff. And I'm just so thankful for them speaking into my life. But several things. When I ran for the Senate, I had a lot of haters. I had a lot of people who had never met me. And Matt, good to see you, brother. A lot of people who never met me. They never spent one day with me. They never had one conversation with me. And they couldn't stand me. They absolutely hated my guts. My name made them disgusted. If they saw my picture on a sign or a billboard, they were disgusted. The sheer thought of me bothered them. And I never could understand it. I thought, if there's nobody that I won't sit down and have a conversation with, I don't care if we disagree, we can at least be civil and human and sit down and talk and have a great conversation, even if we have differences of opinion or beliefs. And so in the campaign, that was really a strong part of it. And I remember one of the writers for the opposition literally wrote a hit piece to start off before he knew me. And I reached out to him and I said, hey, can we visit over coffee? He actually agreed, which a lot of times they don't. I was very thankful. So he agreed. We met for coffee, and it ended up being a 2 or 3 hour conversation. And if you follow any of the writings, he ended up becoming a fan. He ended up saying, look, I did not think this would go anywhere. This is what has happened. And even though I don't agree or line up with, kind of what he stands for, you've got to respect and admire how it's been done and so forth. So it's possible through being kind and loving the way we should be with all human beings. That's what we're talking about, and that's what we want to focus on. So I remember whenever I was CEO of, I'm trying to think which company, and it started whenever I was a senior executive at the Fortune 500 company. Welcome, Catherine. And I remember while I was there, the higher I moved in the ranks, the more Rotten Tomatoes I started to catch. The higher, and not necessarily from the people there, certainly not from the staff or the employees, but really from people, sometimes from your hometown or things like that. It's people who, the higher you grow, the higher you grow as a person, the more you grow as a person beyond other people, what you will find is that whenever the mud starts slinging, you get the face full of it. Okay. Whenever it's being evenly spread around 1,000 people, you don't have as much to worry about. All right. So what I want to share is, a few principles on how to deal with those that count you as an enemy. All right. And I want you to really be careful here, because just because they count you as an enemy doesn't mean you should count them as an enemy. All right. I don't want, just because you are their enemy, I don't want them to be your enemy. Does that make sense? Because if just because they are upset with you doesn't mean you need to be upset with them. In fact, it just makes them more bitter if you just let it go. The problem is that's hard for us to do. It's hard for people to do. And, so I would say that one of the things that you need to focus on is, and there's some scripture here that I'll share that kind of talks about some of these things. But if you do anything, say anything, be anything, you're going to be criticized. You're going to be criticized. You're going to be wrongfully accused. And I do not know a single leader or a single successful person that has ever done anything that hasn't been wrongfully accused. Even Jesus, it talked about how they brought false reports against him constantly. People will literally say and do anything whenever they hate you, whenever they are so, there's three reasons they say why people hate you. Number one, it's because they're threatened by you. Or two, it's because they hate themselves. Or three, is they want to be you. So they're jealous of you, and it's easier to hate on you than to love you, which is what we're supposed to do. Love our enemies, bless them, and really support them. In fact, I remember one time, and especially as leaders, a lot of times we get in positions where you have to use your authority judiciously. And I remember even as a CEO one time, I had the ability, this person had done me so wrong, I mean, you can't even imagine. They screwed me like you'd never believe. And I had the opportunity, the chance that I could have absolutely crushed them. They would have been on the streets. They would have been, they could have gone to jail. I could have prosecuted them. And they did all manner of evil against me. But the choice that I made in that situation was to offer a way for them to make it right in exchange for not pressing charges. And I required a level of civility instead of hatred and bitterness of what can I do? Even though they should have been the ones saying, how do I make this right? They weren't. So I said, what can I do to remove some of the resentment that somehow you have either towards me or you're taking out on me from something going on at home or somewhere else? I ended up paying that person's bills for 2 months. 2 months. After they were removed out of my life, I paid the bills for 2 months. And I did that. They didn't know it was me the second month, but I did it because I wanted to show myself that I had forgiven them, even though they had never asked for forgiveness. And also, I felt like that was the best way, because you can't control what other people do to you, but you can control how you respond to it. And I was more concerned with the person that I became through that process than I was with what they had done to me. There are a few quotes, though, that I like, and I'm going to share a couple quotes that I like, and then I'm going to share a couple scriptures. First of all, one of them is the loudest boos come from the cheapest seats. The loudest boos come from the cheapest seats. I've always loved that, and it's because the people who usually talk the worst about me, like I said, don't know me, it was newspaper articles that I'd wake up to, and it's a hit piece, and it's like, this is unreal. But then I also had times where there were positive pieces or whatever. I'll tell you, the biggest hater, I had a hater obviously during the campaign, several of them, and that hater cost me dearly. I mean, I paid a price for several years after that because of the vindictiveness that they did to try to get at me. And but that eventually they end up losing interest, and they move on, and they're hating on somebody else probably. But the biggest hater, I've had 2 or 3 probably within the last 5 years. 2, really. It probably started off with 3 or 4, down to about 2. And I remember reaching out multiple times. Hey, can we visit? Like, I just don't understand the animosity. I just, if we can talk, then we can at least understand each other. And, especially as Christians, we really should be able to do this. And, they weren't willing, which I can tell you this, every single time someone won't meet with you, the problem is not you, it is them. Period. End of story. If someone isn't willing, if someone's hating you so much that they won't communicate with words, not being a 2-year-old brat and just, playing games or whatever, but if they won't communicate with their words, the problem is not you, it is them. But it is your responsibility, even if they did you wrong, to initiate, to reach out, and to ask if you can communicate and try to reach resolution. Because there's a verse that says, as much as possible, as much as lieth within you, let every man live peaceably one with another. Our goal, my desire, is that there is not a single person in the world who hates me. Now, there may be people who don't like me. There may be people who don't like what I stand for, who don't like my message, who don't like what I represent. That's okay. That's fine. It's people that count you as an enemy. They hate you. And if somebody hates me, then I want to do whatever I can to help them not hate me. I want to love them. And sometimes that creates even more hatred. So you got to use wisdom on how what that looks like. But the loudest boos come from the cheapest seats. And I will tell you this: Romans 10:1 talks about that we're going to have persecution. Well, actually, I'll end up getting the specific verse for you in a second. But it talks about the fact that in this life we're going to be persecuted. Mark 10:31 says, "Look, if whatever you leave and forsake, houses, lands, mothers, fathers, for my sake, you walk away to serve me, I'm going to restore that 100-fold in this lifetime and the lifetime to come." And then it says in 10:31, it actually says, "I'm going to restore it 100-fold with persecutions." It says it's going to restore it with persecutions. So it absolutely blows my mind that people think they're going to live and be successful without having haters. Just think about like Steve Jobs or Elon Musk. I mean, there's stuff in the papers about him and online every day, and people just hate. They don't like what you stand for. They don't like what you represent. They don't like what you're doing. But you can't focus on that. Not only that, you've got to focus on and recognize, expect it. Just expect that's going to come. Hey, Matt, good to see you, brother. But I want to share now. Pull up some of the things specific references I wanted to give you. And I started to tell you a little bit about my biggest hater. Now I was able to meet with the one on one occasion for a couple hours, and literally hours after that, he ended up, running his mouth again to someone, and it wasn't pretty. And so I was able to release it though after that. I had done my part, and if he just doesn't want to have a good relationship, then you leave that in the Lord's hands. But I can tell you that the second one is a guy that I have never talked to in person. I want you to think about this. He's followed me for 2018, probably a decade or more. I ended up blocking him in 2009 or so, and then again in like 2011, 2012, because it got really. Actually, I was a little bit concerned for my safety and some other things, but and so what I had to do was, yeah, you're right, Patrice. Bless and release. So what I did was I ended up helping him through a bitter divorce through a couple of messages. I don't remember if we actually had a phone call or not. I don't think we did, but we may have. And this was several years ago. And so I was helping him during an emotionally difficult time in his life, counseling and so forth. And literally, he did some things I didn't find out about for about 7 or 8 months, but he did some pretty low things a couple of weeks after I was done trying to help him be a blessing. And because of that, I became enemy number one. And you talk about somebody who can't stand me. He can't stand me. And so, in those kind of cases, there's the only time people really hate is when they have some really deep broken parts. When they're really deeply hurt. All right. And you have to recognize that. Once you recognize that it's coming from a place of hurt, it's a lot easier to just not hold it against them. And it's a lot easier to not respond, especially to not respond in hatred or with vengeance. And I will say this, God is very clear in Romans 12:19, vengeance is mine, saith the Lord, I will repay. I can tell you this, if you take vengeance on your own, he's going to be like, you got it. I don't need to do anything now, which is really dumb on your part, because God will he'll do a whole lot more, and he knows the right way to get people's attention. And you'll just make them mad. So just release, as was mentioned a moment ago. But you have to focus on making sure your response, that you do not react, but that you respond. That's one of the most difficult things to do in life, and very few people have enough self-control. They don't have enough discipline to control what they eat. They don't have enough discipline to control their mind and their thoughts. They don't have enough discipline to control, what time they wake up and what time they go to bed and what they say yes to and what they say no to. So to think that they're just going to, be able to have some great discipline in this area is questionable at best. But especially whenever the emotions and the epinephrine and everything else is so sky high that they're almost responding. It's like whenever people commit a crime and they say, I don't even remember doing it. It's because their epinephrine was so high. They were so jacked up that, you think I'm playing? They were so jacked up that they literally don't remember it. And so what you have to do as a leader and as a successful person in life and business is control that response. You have to respond intentionally. Okay, do not react. Most people's natural knee-jerk reaction is to react. And every time you react, you're going to screw it up. You're going to do something, and it's not what happens, it's how you handle it. And the reaction is usually worse than the initial act. Okay? So what I want you to do is notice a couple of things. Number one, let God handle the haters. You're not going to change them. Look, you can't even change yourself hardly. So don't try and change them. And I want you to, haters will see you walk on water and they'll say it's because you can't swim, and they'll bash you to people and they'll talk evil about you. But look, every accomplished person has haters. If you make waves in your industry, in your business, if you just live for the Lord, you're going to have persecution. You will be persecuted. And Jesus just says, expect it. Know it's coming. Don't be surprised. He gives you a very clear path on what to do when they come. And just recognize that to actively sabotage another human being, you have to be very deeply broken yourself. So really focus on your own healing. If you fall in the category of you can't stand somebody, focus on your own healing. And then if you're on the other side receiving the persecution, don't take it personally. Don't take it personally. Recognize the pain that person must be feeling, and then as long as you have no ill will, then the bitterness never reaches you. It just hurts them even more. Psalm 110 verse 1 says, God says, "Sit at my right hand until I make thine enemies thy footstool." Sit at my right hand until I make thine enemies make thine enemies thy footstool. He just says, "Let me handle it. Let me handle it." And I wish we lived in a peaceful world. I wish people would love, I see so much stuff on Facebook and social media, and they're talking about love trumps hate and all these other things. And then, the very people who post some of that stuff are some of the most hateful people. They've been even some of the most hateful people to me. And I think about this and I reflect on it, and I'm like, so they really don't mean let's love everyone. It's I want everyone to be like me, and that's what we're going to focus on and love. And so I want to challenge you to be better than that. I do want you to love everyone. I do want you to be kind. I do want you to be forgiving. And I really want you to focus on where's your heart. How is your spirit? How's your spirit? You can't control anybody else. You can't change anybody else. You haven't done it before. You're not going to do it now. There's only one person who can change somebody, and it's not themselves. So recognize you're going to have haters. You're going to have people that you can't control how they feel about you. And there's a difference between having a hater and wanting everybody to like you. Okay, everybody wants to be liked. But I'm talking about the extreme cases where you may not have done anything on your own accord, or you did something unintentional, or like nothing happened, and there's just false accusations or allegations or whatever. Fear, false evidence appearing real. Fear is so powerful. Fear is probably the greatest attribute of hate. Fear is probably the greatest attribute of hate. And fear is the most crippling and paralyzing force on earth that I know of. And you know what's ironic about that? Is there's a source of fear. The source of fear is the enemy. The force of fear is satanic. So when you feel fear or anxiety, anxiousness about a situation, that's not from God. That's not, fear is not from Him. I'm not talking about a fear of snakes or a fear of this, not natural fears. I'm talking about fear of the unknown. I'm talking about fear of what people are going to say. I'm talking about fear of the future, and just fear about changing course, fear about doing what's right, fear about losing friends because you start doing the right thing. Those fears. That's what I'm talking about. And there's a verse that says in the New Testament that God is not the author of confusion. If you're confused, then you're already you really want to focus on walking with Him because He's not the author of it, which means there's some other influences in your life, and you're going to have to root those out. And that's going to be Saturday's show. You don't want to miss Saturday's show on how to break the soul ties in business, because it's something that I had never really thought about before. I mean, people talk about soul ties. All of you know what soul ties are in life. Usually we speak of them in terms of relationships. But we, as kingdom entrepreneurs, we haven't really merged these two worlds with soul ties as it relates to business. And whenever the Lord opened my eyes to this, I'm telling you, it blew my mind. I thought back to situation after situation after situation. I'm going to share some of those stories on Saturday, but I thought of so many different circumstances where that happened because of a soul tie, an employee way back when, or an experience I had in business way back when, or even something outside, a soul tie outside of work that affected my work. And so you're going to hear some of those stories, maybe some of the confessions. But what I really want you to get out of this is that in this life, you're going to have persecutions. You're going to have haters. You're going to have people who say mean things about you. You're going to have people who do mean things to you. I'm going to go one step further, and they will be evil to you. They will speak evil about you. And I can tell you, what you want to do is you literally, in your mind, respond, not react. And in part of the first things you've got to do in your mind is say, Lord, bless them. I don't know what they're struggling with. I don't know what their pain is. I don't know what somebody has said to them or done to them or what hurts that they have. But help me not to add to that. And if it's a legal matter, then you respond how you need to respond. But usually it's just rhetoric. And in those cases, the best thing you can do after you've reached out and tried to reconcile with a hater, the best thing you can do is completely walk away. Completely walk away. You sever that, you've given it to the Lord, and you walk away. Maybe they'll come around in this lifetime, maybe they won't. Doesn't matter to you. That's not your call. It's not your call to make. I want you to have peace. God said He came that you might have joy and that you might just have it more abundantly, and to walk around with the peace of God, the love of God in your hearts. That it should be on your countenance. I did an entire video on your countenance, and people can tell. People can tell tell what kind of a spirit you have by your countenance. You can't fake countenance. You can fake your attitude. You can fake your positivity. You can fake energy. But you cannot fake countenance. Now, granted, it takes a discerning person to recognize a countenance. There's a lot of non-discerning people who just see the positive attitude and the upbeat, and whatever you're able to manufacture. They're able to see that, and it fools them for a while. They go with it. And even then, whenever it stops working out, they don't recognize, they still don't know what it was that made it not work, but it's countenance. It's countenance. Countenance comes from deep within you. Countenance comes from who you are being. The verse that has really spoke to me the last couple of days, I'm getting really personal with some of this stuff, but with Psalm 27:14. And it says, wait on the Lord. Be of good courage. He will strengthen your heart. Wait, I say, on the Lord. And so I was really meditating on that the last couple of days, but what I noticed yesterday morning was it says, wait on the Lord, be of good courage. It doesn't say wait and do. And I'm telling you, we're CEOs, we're business people, we love to do. We love to execute, man, get it done, boom, boom, boom. Not wasting any time here. But it's not wait and do. It's wait and be. What you and I just fail to understand is He cares way more about who we are than what we do or what we accomplish or what our job title is or how much money we make, how much money's in the bank, what car we drive, where we live, who our friends are, where we hang out, party, get to do whatever, what invitations we get to events. He cares way more about who you are. So focus on being the right person. Focus on being someone that loves. Focus on being someone that's tender-hearted. Giving people the benefit of the doubt. You know how many times I've gotten screwed from giving people the benefit of the doubt? I've gotten wiser on it, but I also don't respond. I know you're screwing me, and I'm not going to say anything. I'm just not going to continue putting myself in a position where I can get screwed. But I can still be loving to that person. I can still be kind. I can still be tenderhearted. I can still have compassion. I can still even help. But God cares way more about who I am and what I'm being than what I'm doing. So I pray that this has helped you. One of the things that spurred this for me is the guy I told you about, probably my biggest hater. I haven't gotten, hate communication since probably last fall or last summer, and I got one in the last couple of days. And of course, I did not respond, just like I've counseled you to not respond. But I'll tell you what I've done, because I hadn't really thought about it much lately, but I'll tell you what I did. I started praying for him more than I've ever prayed for him before. When you say their name out loud in prayer, I promise you it's impossible for you to have animosity towards somebody. You will not resent them. You will not have bitterness towards them. You will feel sorry for them, but it will be not in a pity kind of a way. It's in a, God, I really hope you are able to restore their soul, their heart, because this is unhealthy. This isn't good for them. It's obviously eating them alive. And so I bless them today. I hope they have a wonderful day. And if there's anything I can do to bless them anonymously, then give me the idea. Because they're obviously hurting. And I'm telling you, ladies and gentlemen, if you will go through life with that spirit, you'll still have haters, because he says right here in his word that as long as we're alive and as long as we're living for him and as long as we're doing right, you will suffer persecution. It's going to come. You're going to have it. And then if you're successful, you're really going to have the haters. I mean, Michael Jordan had them. LeBron James has them. Elon Musk. I mean, all the business people have them. All the politicians have them. Anybody who does anything, every CEO has them. Your supervisor at work has them. What I want to do is help you rise above. And I want you to know how to handle it. Because I'm telling you, most of them do not. Most people do not know how to handle it when they're taking the bullets, when it's coming in hot and heavy. They react, they don't respond. Love people. Be kind. Be gentle. Be humble. One of the things I like that Ford Taylor says is pre-forgive. Go in pre-forgiveness. You may never ask me to forgive you for wronging me, but I forgive you anyway, because that releases me. It releases me to continue a life of joy, peace, happiness. And that's what people haven't figured out in their quest for happiness. Probably the biggest reason people are not happy is because of the baggage that they hold on to. It's not the entertainment factor. It's not how much entertainment can I do that makes me happy. It's what can I release? Not what can I do, but what can I let go that will make me happy. And it's not... It's usually something from your past. Bitterness. And it's not a thing, place, person, or idea. It's not. They may be the object of it, but it's not them. It is a feeling, and it is the very real things of bitterness, anger, resentment, fear. Those are the real enemies. I'll close with this. The scriptures teaches that our enemy, our real enemy, is not flesh and blood. It's not flesh and blood. It's spirits. It's the principalities and the evil principalities of this world. It's Satan and his forces and his demonic influences. Our enemy may appear through the vestige of a human. And I promise you, whatever is done to you, it's not them. It is a spiritual warfare in the life of a believer, or a spiritual attack, and you do not fight the weapons, a spiritual war, with physical weapons. It does you no good to go after your enemy, because that's the wrong enemy. The art of war Sun Tzu talks about, the very first thing is know your enemy. Know your enemy. Most of us are fighting the wrong enemy. And you wonder why you're tired. Funny, I just thought about a quote I saw on Pinterest not too long ago. And it said, "Darling, how brave that the demons that you fought yesterday that left you so tired, you wake up and fight again today." Oh, it's brave. Yeah, how brave. Well, nothing could be further from the truth. That's completely ungodly counsel. Because that's not bravery, it's stupidity. You address the demons. You get rid of the demons. You don't wake up to fight the demons that left you so tired the day before. You get rid of them. You eliminate them. But the problem is a lot of people don't like what you got to do to eliminate them. They'd rather live with that pain of having them than to address it. But go in pre-forgiveness, go in love, go in peace. And the happiness that so many people seek but never find, it's already in you. And it comes from letting go. Letting go. You've all seen the quotes, let go and let God. It's true, but the quote's not strong enough to help us practice that. I think it's much deeper than that. It's a reflection of who you are. So my counsel is that you focus on being more than you focus on doing. Focus on being. And if you're wondering who to be, if you're struggling with identity, that's a whole other conversation. Email me, message me, whatever. I'd be happy to talk to you about it because I think a lot of people struggle with identity. And when you struggle with identity, you do a lot of stupid things. And our ultimate identity is found in Jesus Christ. If I ask you right now, who are you? If you start telling me your job title and what you do at work, you're missing the boat. You're already lost. You already don't know who you are. I want more for your life than that. I want you to experience freedom. I want you to experience freedom. You do not have to suffer oppression. You do not have to be depressed. You do not have to be anxious. Which means it ultimately becomes a choice. You say, I'm not choosing. Well, if you don't seek answers, then it becomes a choice. And that choice can become an illness. I'd rather be the fence at the top of the hill than the ambulance at the bottom. I'd rather help you before the problem arises, but I'll also be there when you crash. Because I've been there too. Multiple times, over and over. Over and over. I've been there. And it's okay. What I can tell you, Proverbs says, a just man falleth down 7 times and riseth up again. You will suffer persecution in this lifetime. And what's ironic is the Bible says in 2 places that all great people will be attacked. They attract Satan's attention. All great people attract Satan's attention. 1 Chronicles 21:1 talk about Satan went to David and told him to number the children of Israel, and it was totally against God. And he did it. That was he constantly goes after great people. And then he did it a second time with he went after people a second time at Job chapter 1. And so people who are doing great, people who are successful, they're the biggest targets. So just don't be surprised. Just be prepared. And remember, it's not about reacting. It's responding. But it's responding and being. The first thing you got to do is check your state. Check your physical state. What am I thinking? How do I feel? Okay, I'm putting that epinephrine reaction aside. This is who I am. I'm a loving person. I'm a kind person. I'm a sweet person. I'm a tender-hearted person. I'm a forgiving person. So therefore, there's really nothing to say. There's no need to respond because that's who we are. Thank you guys so much. Don't miss Saturday at 2 p.m. on Kingdompreneur Radio. Hey, this wasn't a fancy studio, but you wouldn't have gotten this for another month or two, and it's been on my show notes every week since the last week of May or first week of June, and just felt impressed. So I hope you have a wonderful evening, and we'll see you Saturday in the studio. Take care.